everybody. Trivalent Understanding Noetics. T.U.N. Are you woke and in tune? If not, we're going to see if we can get you that way. Okay, this is the first of the second portion of the class in Trivalent Understanding Noetics. For those who have been here in the past, welcome back. For those who have never been here, oh, you in for something different. Straight up and ridiculous. Now, the first section of the Trivalent Understanding Noetics was primarily about you. It was primarily about what you are. You are a trivalent being. A trivalent being is a being composed of a spirit that has three separate types of functions, a mind that does three major focuses, and your physical body. The Trivalent Understanding Noetic teaches you how to coordinate, collaborate, and to some degree, functionally operate all three portions of your being. Now, does that seem to be right to you, my students?
Yes.
Yeah, oh, thank you so very much. As a part of the first portion of the Trivalent Understanding, we gave you the tools. The tools of the Trivalent Understanding are the affirmations of the wounded soul, vector augmentation, face up, deep vision. Affirmations of the wounded soul are basically affirmations that reorganize your spirit, mind, and body. Vector augmentation brings your body to a new height of functioning, and it does it in 133 seconds. I did not mistake myself. Seconds. Face up is a non-surgical facelift, and it gets you a face like this at 70, 80 years old. Yeah. I will be close. I'm as close to 70 as you're going to get right now. Deep vision is exercise for your eyes, and it actually improves your vision. One of the reasons you get worse vision as you get older is, when's the last time you exercised your eyes? No, I don't mean the last time you used them. When's the last time you exercised them? That's the answer most people get. Never. And exercising them allows you to use them better, just like exercising any portion of your being allows you to use it better. But that was the last 9 weeks. This is going to be a little bit different. It always is. But this time we're not going to talk as much about what you are. We're going to give a whole lot more emphasis into who you are. We explained that who you are is a descendant from ancestors that stretch back to the beginnings of mankind. That is who you are individually. Everyone who is alive right now has an ancestor that was one of the first human beings to walk on this planet. We're going to go into that in much more depth and detail. And we're going to start that off by talking about something that's been coming up relatively recently, very consistently. The past, 3-6 months, we've been hearing a lot about immigrants. We've been hearing a lot about migrants. We've been hearing a lot about all these different people that are coming to America. Sounds like the name of a movie. I'll talk to Arsenio about that. But this diversity is something that pink people, led by our president, line 44.5, is making these pink people very, very, very anxious and afraid. Should not be unusual because, unfortunately, their civilization has always been ruled and controlled by fear. What can we make you afraid of so that you will trust us and give us all the power that we need to control things? Because without that power, those things we fear are going to come get you. They're going to come get you. They're coming to get you. No, they're not. Because God, nature, and man must live through diversity. Now, I want to review something for you. This is an article I wrote for the African American Lifestyle magazine. It's called The Health of Diversity, or the Diversity of Health. Let me read just the beginning of it. It says, this article is presented as an educational aid and a contemporary reflection of age-old truths regarding life itself. Selah. As I stated before, God, nature, and humanity cannot exist without diversity. All these people who are white supremacists, racial purists, and all those other theorems of lack of diversity that primarily pink people, but others to some extent, have been touting is biologically, anthropologically, and spiritually incorrect. Because God and nature and mankind exist through diversity. Now, for all those who have come to my classes before, you will remember something called the pyramid paradigm. The pyramid paradigm explains that in geometry there is a shape called a pyramid. It has very easily defined portions, the bottom or base, the sides that come up from the bottom or base, and the place where the sides meet called the apex or point. And the pyramid paradigm asks one question. It asks, how many different ways is it to go from the bottom of the pyramid to the top, from the base of the pyramid to the apex? I want everybody who hasn't gone through this, ask yourself, how many different ways is it to go from the bottom of the pyramid to the top? Hint. It's not infinite. It's very finite. You thought about it? You came up with an answer? Good. What's that answer? Have somebody say 3? 3. You smart devil, you. Yeah, 3's right. But so is 9. So is 1. One brother argued me down. I don't care what you know, but there's only one way. That's up. That's it. Up. 1. He was right too. Because the most correct answer to the pyramid paradigm, how many different ways is it to go from the bottom of the pyramid to the top, is as many as you can imagine. Now, I told you it's very finite, and that finite, that limitation, is your imagination. If you cannot imagine something, it does not exist. Okay. 3 points of the pyramid paradigm. Number 1, your imagination is your only limit. It will always be your only limit. There is no other limit to humanity except your imagination. Number 2, the more things you can imagine, the better it is. The more ways you can imagine to do something, the more options you have. The more ways you can imagine to solve a problem, the more chance you have of getting a way that is specific for that particular circumstance, particular for that individual, particular for that specific time. Now, why am I bringing all this up? Oh, I'm sorry, last point, because I only gave you the 2 points. The third point of the pyramid paradigm. Your imagination is not an aspect of your body or your mind. Your imagination is a function of your spirit. I told you before, the spirit has 3 different separate types of functions: enabling, protecting, visualizing. And imagination goes into that. Now, why in the world am I bringing that up when we're talking about diversity? I I'm glad I asked that question. Let me answer. The more answers, the more means, the more method, the more ways to the top of the pyramid, the more diversity. You only got one way, you're not very diverse. The more different types of ways, the more different means that you can obtain to do anything, that's again diversity, the better it is. The better it is for you. Oh, about, let me see, 1824, I believe, Europe was ruled by a bunch of relatives. And I'm talking about France, Germany, Austria, Russia, Poland, England, Ireland were all ruled by the same group of people, the Habsburgs. And they married into themselves. Aunts married nephews, uncles married nieces, cousins had children, and they soon discovered that that wasn't too good because their offspring was warped and twisted. They started having problems with their bones, with their blood, hemophilia, bleeding disease. That happens when you interbreed. But there are also very many spiritual, psychological illnesses, and one, a bony deficiency that caused all the Habsburgs to have a jaw that looked like this. They called it the Habsburg jaw. This had a pugnacious jaw. Their lower jaw stuck out real far. It also helped that they didn't think well. They were subject to fits of rage. They just didn't work as a human being very effectively. But this is what happens all the time when you interbreed, when you're trying to get rid of diversity, when you're trying to create an individual who doesn't have lots of different genes from lots of different places. But that's just one example. Let's go back to the article that I wrote for African American Lifestyle magazine. Okay, it states, back to the pyramid paradigm, it indicates that there are many ways to do anything, as you can imagine. Some are good, some are better, some best. Some ways are best under certain circumstances. Some are best for particular people. Some are best at specific times, but having the diversity of many methods gives you the ability to find success way to the top of the pyramid under any conditions. Individual means, method, or techniques to do anything are opinions, and preferred ways of viewing solutions are shaped by traditions, personal experience, or training. These solitary methods are better or best, depending on the persons and the situations, but as a whole, each is simply one way to get to the top of the pyramid. Inclusion is one way to ensure that each individual, inclusion is one way to ensure each individual that all effective methods to do any task are available for use by all persons involved. Now, Mother Nature, who I talked about earlier, has a specific way of ensuring diversity. And it's called sexual reproduction. Okay, all right, okay, wait. Stop that thought. Whatever thought you're thinking, get rid of it. I don't know where it came from, but get that out your head. I ain't talking about sex as an activity. I'm talking about sexual reproduction as a means and a method to reproduce. Every cell in your body except sperm and ovaries go through a process of reproduction called mitosis. Mitosis has pro-met-ana-telia. Okay, they have 5 different phases. Mitosis, the means by which every other cell in your body reproduces except eggs and sperm, has 5 different phases. One's called interphase, when they're not reproducing. The other one is called prophase, right before they get to introducing. Then there's metaphase, anaphase, and teleophase. These phases lead to the nucleus of these cells opening up, reproducing the DNA, separating into two daughter cells, and then going their separate ways. Every cell in your body, except sexual cells, do that. Sexual cells do something called meiosis. Not mitosis, meiosis. Meiosis has interphase, prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and then it's got another little phase that's right behind anaphase called crossing over. And then you got teleophase, where they actually separate into individual cells. Now, interphase, it's between reproduction. Prophase is when they get ready to reproduce, and it's the same as mitosis. Metaphase is when the nucleus breaks down and the DNA reproduces, the same as mitosis. Anaphase is where all of these cells, all of these DNAs, I should say, from the cells, separate into their individual strands. Then you get crossing over. Individual strand of DNA, individual strand of DNA. They reproduce themselves, so there's two of them now. And then those two come together and they combine. Bits of this one go to this one. Bits of this one go to this one. So this is mixed with this is mixed with that. So that when they now separate, instead of just two, you got 4 different strands of DNA, and they're all mixed. None of them are the same as their parents. Now, once that occurs, these individual germ cells, either a sperm or an egg, separate. So you got now 4 different cells. Used to be 1. Divide into 2. These 2 further divided into 4. And when that further division happens into 4, the normal 64 chromosomes that you have in a human being is cut to 32. It's called a haploid number, a half number. So that when an egg with 32 combines with a sperm with 32, they make an individual that has 64. But, let me repeat, but those now new germ cells are totally, completely different than their parents. They have been diversified. They have been mixed because that's what nature requires of life. As I told you before, God, nature, and humanity must have diversity. Humanity must have it so we don't get no Habsburgs. God, no, let me leave God last. Nature must have it because it doesn't want its parents to be reproduced. Nature never wants the future generations to be genetically the same as the parents. Nature makes this process, meiosis, to make sure that that never happens. Last but not least, God. I told you that God wants diversity. Now, it really doesn't matter which God you're talking about. You can be talking about the Christian Judeo, Yahweh. You could be talking about The Islamic Allah. You could be even talking about Inyame, Odumakima, Shwirihon. That is the Akan names for God. Doesn't matter. God came here to mix up genes. Now, how do I know that? I ain't God. But I can tell you 3 things about God. Number 1, what I just told you. I ain't him/her. Number 2, God don't need me for jack. Nothing. Number 3, God is a scientist. And I can specifically tell you what type of scientist God is. God is what they call a geneticist. A geneticist is a scientist who specializes in genes, DNA, mixing and matching. Now, why do I say that? Well, every male member of my family is a religious leader. My grandfather, both my mother's father and my father's father, were both preachers. All of my uncles are preachers. All of my cousins are preachers. My brother is an imam in the Islamic faith. I'm not. I'm a teacher. I'm an educator. But having this religious background means that I spend a whole lot of time in church every day. Antioch Baptist Church in St. Louis, Missouri, Reverend Cook and Reverend William Collins. I went to church every day. I don't mean every Sunday. I mean, on Monday we went to B2U. On Tuesday we went to BYF. On Wednesday we went to Boy Scouts. On Thursday we had choir rehearsal. On Friday we went there to fold and staple the church program that was called The Voice of Antioch. So we did The Voices on Friday and Saturday. And on Sunday we went to church. As a result, I got more than a good exposure to the Christian religion. And that religion tells me that when God came here, first thing he did was create this reality. Then the second thing he did was start genetically manipulating things, especially people. Not only did he make the first human beings, which requires a little genetic knowledge and understanding, but as soon as he made them, he started manipulating their genetic makeup. Because it said, I believe, in the 24th chapter of Genesis, and the sons of God saw the daughters of men were fair, and each took unto himself a wife. And of that union, great men of renown were born. There were giants in the earth in those days. Now, what this talks about is what we call hybridization. Okay? When you take one pure strain and mix it with another pure strain of any species, what you get is called a hybrid. It's a mix of those two strains. God took one pure strain, sons of God, and mixed it with another pure strain, daughters of men. And what he got was a hybrid. They were giants. But more than that, they were very, 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 very powerful. So powerful that God could not control them. This ain't me saying this. Read the Bible. It is my firm belief that these hybrids were a mistake God made. And that's why the flood was, not to kill man, but to kill these hybrids that were called the Nephilim. Now, before y'all start going all religious on me, let me tell you, I am not religious at all. I have studied Buddhism, Taoism, Christianity, Islam, Shintoism to some degree, Akan cosmology, and about 5 or 6 other religions we won't even go into. I'm very spiritual. I am not religious. I'm saying that because many people out there would say, how in the hell he say God made mistakes? God don't make mistakes. Excuse me, you are incorrect. I didn't say God made mistakes. God said God made mistakes. Let me take you back to that same just Christian Judeo book called the Bible. He made light. Let there be light, and there was light. That was the first day. And God said, it is good, it is very good. The second day, he divided the day from night, light from darkness, and that was the second day. He said, it is good, it is very good. Then he created the firmament. He made the firmament stand away from the waters. Third day, he said, it's good, it is very good. He then made creeping and crawling things and all the things that fly, so forth, so on, yada, yada, yada. And again, said, it's good, it's very good. I will slide right through all the rest of those days to get to the sixth day. After creating everything, it said that God then took the dust of the earth, and created man. And soon as he created that man, called him Adam, and took him out in the Garden of Eden, which was in El Kebulon, according to the directions in the Bible. We all know that the first man looked like this. But right after he got through creating that man, God said, it is not good that man be alone. I should have made two of them. I screwed up. I made a mistake because I didn't make two. Not good, very good. It is not good. After good, very good, good, very good, good, very good. Oh, it is not good that man be alone. I messed up. I made a boo-boo. I made an error. These hybrids that God was dead set intent on making, as I stated, can only be created if you have two distinct members of the same species. Okay? They got to be able to reproduce with each other, but they got to be unique, distinct. And most of the Old Testament and the Judeo-Christian book called the Bible is about God making a distinct species. He told Moses, I will make your people a special people unto myself. That's called isolating a species. When you make them special and you put them way off here. And he was constantly telling the Hebrew, they weren't Hebrew yet, they were still the Hebrew, not to intercourse with any other people, not to marry any other people. When you take over a country, a people, a region, a city, he told them to destroy everything. Kill every man, woman, chicken, child, goat, and sheep. Because I don't want any of their genetic lineage messing around with yours. Again, that's called isolating a specific group and a species. He said, you are a special people. And he kept telling them that. You're a special people. You're my isolated people. I want to keep you, quote unquote, pure, so that when I mix you with something else, I'll know what I'm doing. And every geneticist knows that that's what you have to do to create a hybrid. Now, 25 to 50 million dead. That's the cost of the Atlantic slave trade in El Kebulonese lives. It is estimated that 25 to 50 million El Kebulonese died during the Atlantic slave trade. I have, early in my life, wondered why, and I've been asked that by several people. And I've come up to the conclusion again, I don't know. But I can tell you several things about it. Number one, God wanted it to happen, or else it wouldn't happen. Number two, Because God wanted it to happen, there was a reason that was God's reason that we need to try to understand. Last but not least, that reason that is God's reason has to do with creating what God has always been here creating: hybrids. Taking specific, distinct species and combining them together. Now, let me back up just a little bit and tell you a little bit more about hybrids. There was a guy, he was actually an Austrian monk. His name was Gregor Mendel. And Gregor Mendel, about middle of the 15th century, started doing research on genetics. He was the first European to publish works on genetics that we know of. He started out with peas and different flowers, just trying to get how genes work. And he discovered, quite naturally, that when you have one species, no matter what that one species is, that one species is going to reproduce its own kind. If you have tall peas, they're going to reproduce tall peas. If you have pink flowers, if you have red flowers, they're going to reproduce red flowers. Now, what Mendel was interested in is combining these specific things. So he took tall peas and combined them with short peas. And he came out with intermediate peas. Come on now. Oh, y'all know. He took red flowers and combined them with white flowers. And he came out with pink flowers. Y'all see that? Yeah. It's real simple. It's real natural. This is how nature works. But he discovered 3 additional things. He discovered that when you have a tall pea, that tall pea has